Let's break the mold, start believing, and stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. Welcome to Wild on 7, presented by Pilot Games. We're here until it's here.
Okay, welcome back to Wild on 7th. Hey, we are off to a burning start, and so are the Wild.
Stay hot.
Stay hot. But hey, that's the reason that we're here, Kinger, because what do firemen do?
They fight fires.
And the Wild are, they're ablaze right now.
This is when you need us the most.
This is why we started the podcast. We wanted to change the mold.
This is literally, we were in a coffee shop in White Bear Lake, and Ryan was like, Minnesota sports fans got some bad DNA, man. It's in the blood. We got to fix it, and we're starting with the Minnesota Wild.
And what comes first, the chicken or the egg? For those of you that don't know, Kinger and I, we do believe that it takes the fan base to turn things around. I was trying to explain the phenomenon to some guys before we started to record that Minnesota Wild, or not just Wild fans, but Minnesota fans in general of Minnesota sports, they set the bar and the floor. Like every team auto stinks, right? And then whenever they play well, then
they want to knock it back down.
And that's an anomaly. The team just happens to be playing well. It's not a good team that's playing poorly. It's a bad team that plays well.
Because we know what they really are.
We know what they really are.
I got a text on the Vikings that made me laugh out loud. So the Vikings are 5-1. By all accounts, they got this young coach. It's kind of been painless on Sundays. It's sort of weird. And my buddy texts me, he goes, rest assured, the Vikings will crash the plane into the mountain. And actually, it was actually so bad, it was good. I kind of laughed like, wow, so you're watching this ascent, and all you can think of is that we're going to swing. We're just going to hard turn right into the side of the mountain and blow that thing up. No parachutes.
No. And once you're actually privy to the facts, and you stop feeling bad for yourself as a Minnesota sports fan and you look at it, you start to really see that it is a real thing where success is something that everybody thinks is unattainable in sports, and for the professional sports that they like to follow, that it is just inevitably going to go wrong. And
by the way, more often than not, it does.
Yeah.
There's only one champion.
Right.
Okay. But, and I think the other thing people need to know, yes, this is a Wild podcast, but we're going to have an open and candid discussion. The stuff you guys are saying as you punch the ceilings of your car, I think we're going to discuss all of it. We're not afraid of it. We're not saying it's going to get better overnight. We don't know either.
Right.
But we want it to, and we want to believe it will. And that's core to what we're doing here. We're the righteous gemstones of Wild podcasts. And I think it matters. I mean, should we get into kind of the mood of the nation a little bit?
Well, that's a great segue, because that's one thing I noticed. And again, last year was special because you could feel something was different at XL. You could feel the team was different. There was a belief. They were able to come from behind and win these games. They were never out of it. And the fans kind of jumped on this ride as the roller coaster went up, and everybody was happy. It was exciting. And I think that helped propel the hockey club, right? Now, all of a sudden, we're in a situation where, it's a new year. They've played 3 games, and it feels a little bit different. And then we go to today. We're sitting at practice. I'm watching 10 minutes of practice out here. And if I'm thinking about the identity of this hockey club in terms of the guys, the group, the room, which everybody loves to talk about, it's that number one. It's that they have fun, and that they enjoy being at the rink, and that they enjoy being together.
That's what we said last year. We love these guys because they love each other.
And it's noticeable. But all of a sudden now, the pressure, and I think it is internal pressure too, but it's pressure from the fan base being applied to these players. There wasn't a single smile out there. I don't think I went to one practice last year where there's not a hoop, a holler, a smile, some competition, some game, where it's lighthearted. I mean, it is straight 24/7 game face out there right now.
And I think if this Wild coaching staff has shown us anything, it's don't try harder, try different. If it's not working, let's do a different power play, right? If that line's not working, we're going to switch this line. So to sit there and white knuckle your way back on track, I don't know if it's going to happen. I'd rather see Middleton take off all of his gear, skate around naked, get a bucket of KFC, whatever it takes. Let's get loose and let's relax. Where's the Aaron Rodgers RELAX? I kind of think Moose is channeling the fan base. I don't know if you've been watching. Like when he scores a goal, he is looking at the crowd like, come on, get back on the wagon, God damn it. You were with us last year. Why aren't you with us now? I mean, he is fighting. Reeves, we'll get into that. I mean, this guy is willing us back, but I think to have angst and heavy shoulders and a sore lower back, I don't know that that's the way back.
I don't, and it's not. And the other part that I will give the staff some credit to, because Evison and what he says, he's extremely consistent. He doesn't pin it on the goaltenders. He doesn't pin it on the D zone coverage. He says we all stink. I stink. We've made bad decisions. But what he's stuck with consistently, and I think it's good for the club, when guys play well, he allows them and gives them more ice time to play in their role, to grow, to be good. But at the same time, he doesn't just hold people's spot as a placeholder. So Marc-Andre Fleury, 2 games, doesn't play great. He doesn't throw him out there and say, work through it, buddy. Work through it game 3. He changes it.
Yep.
And he did change it. He put Gustafsson in because he can't have that voice. He can't go into the locker room. He can't say, hey, everybody's equal. We are doing this together. Next man up, if he doesn't make those decisions. And he made that decision with Gustafsson. So despite the fact that they go out against Colorado and he gives up some goals that he probably should not have, actually, he shouldn't have given up some of those goals. But he did. And maybe that's one of the decisions where the coaching staff is looking at each other and say, well, maybe that's a missed opportunity. We could have played Marc-Andre Fleury, let himself work his way through it. But no, he went with it, and I think guys can respect that, and it's still a foundational piece where this group is like together. It's 23 guys trying to work through this. They've had to make some roster changes. There's a lot of noise about Rossi too, and pulling him out, and whether that's right or wrong. But I think when you look at what's actually going on the ice, it's not, and it takes for the Wild to play as poorly or have as bad of results as they've had early on. You can't just circle one thing and say this is the reason. So you cannot just circle the goaltenders and say they're not getting a save. Because if you go across the board, and I can throw some stats out there to prove it, it has been a struggle across the board for people in ways that they're not accustomed to.
Well, let's level set. I'll give you the average fan diagnosis. You give me the analyst diagnosis with some of your fancy stats. So I think everybody knows this. We're 0-3. We got a goalie with a .506 and an .837 goals against average. We're giving up a lot of goals. We are scoring, but these have been lopsided losses, right? And now against 2 good teams for sure. We don't know what the Kings are, right? So if you would have said I was calling this the group of death. When we got the schedule, it was like the group of death was what you started with those first 4 games.
Yeah.
Vancouver being whatever it will be tomorrow or tonight as this comes out. But it's been D-zone coverage, right? Goaltending, giving up a lot of goals even though we're scoring. And it's been an 0-3 start. But what do you see in the more fancy stat numbers?
Yeah, so D-zone coverage is bad. And one area that they're struggling with, and let's rewind to training camp a little bit here. What were the storylines coming out of training camp?
This is where I'm supposed to know the answer to that.
Well, yeah, you are. But it was mostly, and if you think about it, this is what it will be. How are we going to replace the points that left?
Fiala.
Yes.
And power play maybe?
Yes. So it was all scoring based.
Yes.
It was all scoring based. It was not how do we take care of our own end of the ice.
Which was assumed.
So as you go through training camp, and it's 7 games, it's long, the focus, every storyline was quite simply offense and offensive production and filling a void. It was, and I don't know if take it for granted is the right word, but it was maybe taken for granted that they have the D back, the core, they've got a goaltender that played at the end of last year. There's familiarity there. The D systems have not changed. It should be easy to jump right back in. The only spot defensively that was talked about whatsoever in preseason was the penalty kill. And that has changed, and it's not been good still. But I think there's a lot of the focus throughout camp was on the offensive side of the puck. And how are we going to get these goals? Well, ironically, they've been able to score some goals, and the power play has really figured it out. They've just gotten away from what they're good at, and that's
structure.
Structure and defending. And if you look at some of the goals, I think, you know the old adage, if you hit the body, the head will follow?
Yep.
Boxing.
Kill the head and the body will die. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, vice versa.
Oh, you got it the other way.
Yeah, hit the body, the head will follow.
The New Orleans Saints say kill the head and the body will die.
Okay.
But they were cheap.
Yeah, they were. They got
which
fined
one's
for that.
right.
We don't want to
You're saying body blow, solar plexus.
Yeah, whatever it is.
solar
But what I'm
plexus?
saying is, like, it's all connected.
Okay.
So goaltender, and the goaltenders have given up soft goals. So what starts to happen is people start to change the way they play. And I'm going to pick a game and an example from these games. If you look at the last one, Kirill Kaprizov, he got beat, and he's been on the ice. And again, you make $9 million. You know,
he's a minus. He's a big minus.
So 5-on-5 goals
Minus
against.
8, the highest on the team.
5-on-5 goals against. He's been out for 8, and he's been on the ice for just 1 5-on-5 goal for. And I think there's a couple of plays where I'm watching them, and you can see, because this happened to me. If Wild fans rewind back to 2015 or 16, we had a good club, and
You played?
can you believe that?
Okay, I'm sorry. I just thought you were an Emmy award-winning analyst.
Oh, please. So we couldn't get and
Sorry. I thought, it seems like the second part of your career is really outshining the previous part. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the co-host of a podcast with an Emmy award-winning Upper Midwest regional, not the entire Midwest, but Emmy Awards for talent and play-by-play analyst. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ryan Carter, can we get an applause button? All right, back to what you were saying. I'll put this in the middle so we can see it.
do you think they could have any more qualifiers on there for it?
Upper Midwest regional. Does it say regional? Yeah, Upper Midwest
Look
regional.
at that. That's kind of sparkly, though.
Hey, don't be. The advertising.
That's the first time I touched it. How did you get your hands on it?
The advertising was up for an award and we did not win, so you're better than me already. Keep going. Can you even remember your train of thought?
Yeah. So defensive zone, I think it was 2015, we couldn't get a save, and you start to play differently. Like you think, okay, where pressure can be your friend in the defensive zone, you all of a sudden start to just sit back in the middle of the ice and you, so to speak, protect the house because you think more bodies there will be better for you. And then you just start receiving pressure and shots, and you feel like you're doing more defensively because you're blocking shots,
Just
and
chaos.
you're eating rubber and you're chipping the puck out and the bench is going, yeah. But at the same time, you're thinking too much and you're not playing and you're getting away from what probably has made you good, which is instinct and some of these other things. And to me, it looks like that has happened a little bit to Kirill. So all of a sudden, you hit the goaltenders, they're not playing well, and everything has changed. So now Kirill's playing slightly different. Go to the Girard goal, if you guys have it, pull it up. It was a couple days ago. He gets his head on a swivel, 2 guys in front of the net. They're both covered. He's looking for somebody to cover. He sinks back to the house. Girard comes down, and he throws a little soft backhand. Shouldn't go in the net, does. But what Kirill does is he goes down to try to block a shot. Rack your memory. Do you see him going down to block shots all that often? No. What he is he's a threat. And he's an offensive threat that the defense need to respect. So when he's sunken in his own zone, that D has the freedom and ability to just say, man, yeah, I'll jump down as low as he is because he's not going to beat me from down here. And I know that that's one instance, and that's not always going to be the case. But you'll see again in the Manson goal, similar situation. They're lost in their own zone, and everybody all of a sudden tries to sink and protect the house. Pressure's your friend. You can do some things. You got to stay on the D side, yes. But all of a sudden, when you're not getting a save, it changes the way you think and the way you play, and then you're not as effective. And I think that's happening a little bit. We can go another thing that and I don't know if you've noticed it, and I don't know that it's been talked about that much, is how much, and fans like to get after Jordan Greenway. I don't know if fans realize
now everybody
how much
thinks
we miss him.
I'm hearing that we're missing him. He's in one of my. Let's get into the fans here a little bit because it's going to be difficult for us to adjust the personnel on the Wild and change the team's performance. That's ultimately going to be up to them. But one thing our promise or our mission is to help the culture of the Wild fan base as well, because we do believe those things are intertwined. But I've just been one of my sad joys is if the Wild lose a game and they put the Instagram tile up with the score. All I got to do is click on the comments and read about 40 of them. And it's unbelievable. I mean, I've never seen, if we're in a foxhole, the guns are pointed at us. I mean, it is crazy. To keep in mind, the Rangers went to the Eastern Conference Finals. They have one of the best goalies on the planet. We lose opening night. We've played one game out of 82. And, now we've lost 3. But, Huss, can you hit us with a couple of these?
Let's get some of these.
Let's just hear kind of
Panic
when
parole.
we're struggling. And our belief is the fan base is in the boat with the team.
Right.
Let's just imagine some of the sentences that we're saying out loud to the team.
This is us in the locker room.
Yeah, in the locker room. After game 1
This is
or 2
after
or 3.
game 1. This is what's discussed.
This is kind of some lines we might be saying to each other.
Is the Zamboni driver from Carolina available?
That's not a great comment, Marc-Andre is on our team. Okay, what else do we got?
Who are you and what have you done with my team?
So it's all ruined. It's all ruined now.
Yeah.
It's not good anymore. You got one more for us?
Let's go for the perfect season, 0-82. Connor Bedard season.
Connor Bedard.
Yeah, so this
you
is-
gotta love that.
So Karts, I took the liberty of digging deep into the cesspool of the internet. Here's the themes, okay? We don't have to talk about all these. People will go after a little bit Hartman being on the top line, which he was taken off of. I know there's no top line. Flower, obviously, the goaltending stuff. Small defenseman. This whole subplot of Fiala, and presumably we had a choice to either trade Dumba or keep Fiala, and we chose one or the other, and we're still pining away for the handsome Kevin Fiala.
Yeah.
I'm of the belief as a fan, I don't even want a video when a guy comes back to town. Screw you. Screw your shiny helmet. Go eat your fish tacos. You're not with us anymore. This is our team. We're here to kick your ass. I just think all that, like whoever these people are standing up, giving a standing ovation to a former player, get out of here. 22-23 Wild. That's what we're talking about. It's not last year. 10 years from now, if he comes back and you see him at Tom Reed's, get a picture with him. But Jesus, he's the enemy.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. I don't necessarily
standing up.
I don't necessarily hate the idea of like a tribute video, but what I think that needs to be there first is like winning some success. Like part of the reason that and I'm not throwing shade on Kevin Fiala right now, but part of the reason he's not back right now is because they tried that experiment and he didn't help him win.
Yeah. No.
So now you're celebrating mediocrity there.
Last one's Wallstead. Lots of like, can I get the Swedish beautiful baby's cell phone, Bedard tanking, and then Greenway. I'm hearing a lot of like, it's so funny because he's the whipping post because he doesn't skate the right way.
This is a Minnesota fan,
He
the right
bends over at the waist, but now he is the answer.
Right.
If we just have Greenway, put all the pieces back together, and then I did think it was interesting. Russo even was like, 23 days for Rossi. If you'd give up every soft goal imaginable, what do you expect? So like people are in this is zero dark 30.
Well, there are some people in the market that like to spark some of that conversation because it's engaging and fans are passionate and they start to say some of these crazy comments like 0-82. Like that's just asinine. On the other side of that coin, then that person would have to believe that you should be 82-0, right? Like, and that's
and you do get a little bit of like, Billy G's gonna have to answer for this. You get a little like he's the one that. Oh, I missed a cough button. Yeah,
do this in National League.
He wanted Flower and now we got him. So it's like okay, I'm gonna give you a little transition. So we 82, okay, 82 games. And by the way, it's the regular season, which we learned last year. All we had last year was kumbaya. We had golden roasted marshmallows. We had Hershey. We had graham crackers. We were making s'mores by the perfect regular season. And you know what? Who cares? You got to win in the playoffs. That's what it's about. So if we have a little uneven, a little adversity, a couple fires, who cares, man?
Little...
Let's enjoy that. Let's lean into that. Because if this is about everybody being friends with each other this year and having a good locker room, I already saw that season of the Wild.
Right.
Great season. I got it on my shelf, DVD. Now we're into the new season, and let's figure out what this is going to be. But so 82 things. Now, when you're a fan, if you believe you're a part of the experience, which is what this podcast is based on, this would be like sending your kid to summer camp, to camp for the summer, 90 days, 82 games, or maybe it's working a summer job, your kid. Maybe it's sending your kid away to school between September and Thanksgiving when they come home. Even their kid's Pee-wee team. Could you imagine 3 days in to any of those? So your son's like, hey, I got really sunburned at camp, and the counselor didn't even give me any sunscreen. And you're like, this would be the Wild fans. I got your father will be there in 2 hours to pick you up. And we're actually we're going on social media because we believe not only the counselor should be fired, but we should trade everyone and shut it down. Or you're 3 days into college, you got your first hangover your freshman year, and your parents you're transferring. Okay, I want to transfer. Okay, sounds good. You should, because what we can tell, it's not getting any better from here. We're 3 days in. This thing is, I think we can see pretty clearly the writing's on the wall that you should come home from camp. You should transfer it to a new college. And by the way, if your Pee-wee team starts 0-3, we better look at the Bantam, look at the Squirt AA goalie and bring him up, because clearly the people we have in the room now can't do it.
Well,
that's honest to God. That's how we're reacting, and it's shameful.
Well, and I actually think the best one might be your kid sports team. Like, if they lose the first 3, are you throwing the towel in saying,
done,
let's quit?
I'm not going to another game.
I'm not bringing you to practice anymore.
I think
you're not going to get better. It's not going to improve. That's it. It's over.
It's over. And those are good examples, because I think what people would say, well, it's a business. These are pro athletes. And part of the experience of being a fan is you want to go spend your couple $100 and yell at something. Either you're going to yell because you're happy, and if you're not, you're going to yell because you're mad. And that's fine. That's rooted in like soccer, football around the world. It doesn't matter. There's no rules. I want the full emotional spectrum. So that's fine. I'm just saying, if you're rooting for something, like your kid in college, or like your kid's team, or like your son going to summer camp, you're wanting them to be successful. Root for them. And that doesn't mean you can't be critical.
Right.
We have a goaltending problem. We've been terrible in the D zone, but maybe the baby from Sweden will be on our doorstep before we know it, and it'll all be this different season. But just be open. Like I don't know that we need to boo them off the ice after we've lost to Colorado, the Stanley Cup champion, and the New York Rangers, Eastern Conference Finals, maybe one of the best goaltender on the planet. And then, the LA game was a little weird. But I mean, come on, let's be better as fans.
Well, two things. And for those people that are listening right now thinking that, we're saying it's okay to lose the first 3 games and look like this and play like this, that's not what we're saying. We're not accepting that. We're not saying this is a perfect start. This is the start we want. This is the start. This is what we need to win a Stanley Cup. That's not what we're saying.
But it is what it is.
Yeah.
So how are you going to deal with it?
Exactly. And they've got to climb out of it. And it's actually a really good test early on. And I should transition because everybody's going to compare it to last year and how it was different. And do you remember the incident from December 11th?
Oh, God, do I ever. What was it, the 12/11 incident?
Yeah.
So take a minute in your cars, in your headphones, walking your dogs. Obviously, if you're a good Wild fan, you remember December 11th.
You remember what happened December 11th.
Last year.
Yep.
It was dark days.
Yeah. And then it was dark for a week.
I cried.
A couple weeks.
Wait, what are we talking about? What happened?
Oh, yeah, the events from December 11th last year. So the Wild lost 5 in a row.
What?
5 in a row.
I'm sure they were tight games with good structure.
They lost to L.A., to Vegas, the Sabres, Stars, and St. Louis in that order. Okay. And it started off not so bad. They lost 2-1 to L.A., so they couldn't score. But then all of a sudden, Vegas hung 6 on them.
6.
They lose to the Sabres, who were terrible.
Yep.
Right? Then the Stars, they hang up 7.
7?
Wild go to Dallas, and Dallas hangs up 7 on them. And then they come back, and St. Louis hangs 6 on them. So they lose 5 in a row where they give up 6, 7, 6, and then in the other games, they gave up 3 and 2 and didn't have the scoring support to beat them. They lost 5 in a row. Do you want to know what happened after that? The Wild went on a heater. And not only that, they finished with the best regular season all time, 113 points. And the point simply with this is like those things can be masked and covered, and you can learn from them, and they can improve. And I do think that starts are important, and it can set the tone. If you look at last year's regular season, how it started, the come-from-behind victory against Winnipeg, that kind of catapulted them to like a different energy. And
that game was insane.
Yeah, and it goes back to what I was talking about earlier in the podcast, where the group is at their best when they're smiling, having fun, and then there's hoopla. When it's serious, and which we actually talked about during training camp too.
It has felt heavier.
It hasn't been as good. They have to find a way to have fun again and to bring that lighthearted energy, because when they are feeling good, smiling, enjoying the rink, they play harder, they play smarter, they do the right things, and they win games. And I think they've got to find a way to get back to that right now. But
like if we had a guest on right now, that would be a promising sign to me.
That would be a promising sign.
If
but
a player
what
was
has
on,
happened?
But
What
they're
happened?
not going to talk right now.
No, we wanted to have a guest today, and
everything's locked down.
Everybody's buttoned down. They're buttoned up.
Because they don't want to be the guy, if God forbid you lose to Vancouver, that was doing a podcast the day before and maybe said something the wrong way. So, and you understand that, but it's kind of like, it's funny. This is not similar at all, but like with the hockey hair in the high school tournament, there's always these coaches that don't win the tournament. They'll say the guys were spending more time worrying about their hair than the hockey. And that.
Right.
But if you look, the teams that win, they are loose.
Yeah.
They might make a video before they come down from Grand Rapids, right? We made our own video, so like it's kind of like it's hockey. These guys are cowboys. Do you want a cowboy that's got the hat flipped up in front and is a good cook at the bonfire, or do you want a cowboy that's telling you, we got to get to Vancouver by 7, before the rain? I mean, it's just too tight. Do you want to do good, bad, and the ugly?
I do, but you know what? A lot of what we've talked about has been sour, right?
Sour.
And I would love something sweet to come across my palate and give me a reason to smile.
I was trying to find a way for this to be your water system, which would have been weird. But what I would suggest if you need to sweeten up an 0-3 start, besides getting a long hair in your mouth, is I would go with Jimmy's caramel dip.
Ooh.
You can find it near the Apples. I think it's about $5. It's a big tub too. It's like, that thing's going to be with you for a while. You got a month of caramel probably, depending on how many apples you do. I know you're a huge apple guy, but Jimmy's is a local company, Stewartville, Minnesota, 3rd generation. Find it at Cub, find it at Hy-Vee. As Jimmy's Salad Dressings and Dips likes to say, don't you be messing with the dressing. You said with my dressing.
With the dressing.
That's why I do the read.
Yep. Leave it to the pros.
It's like I got the
Leave it to the pros.
Best ad read Upper Midwest Regional Dressings and Dips Division.
I do want to ask a couple questions about the caramel dip. It comes in a nice plastic container.
This has been a problem for the pod, okay?
It comes in a plastic container. Can I put it in the microwave?
I don't know the answer to that, but we are talking to him today. We will ask that.
I like warm caramel sauce.
Hey, related though, we threw the ham.
Yeah, we did.
So we talked to Bill Guerin.
Caramel glazed ham.
Emily from Pull Tab Sports. She wants to warm up the room with how far can you throw a 10-pound ham. We had Emily buy the ham, and I could throw it about 9 yards. My partner at Pull Tab, 12. Ryan Carter, best Upper Midwest ham thrower.
Maybe
regional.
that's a ham actually. He's throwing.
He turned around backwards like an Irish stone throw and threw it over his head and 16 yards. So I don't know if Guerin knew your secret, he might be able to throw it 20. Do you think you could have thrown it 20?
What did it go, 19?
I think you were 16, won it. 16 won it.
19.
Don't give yourself.
It was 19. Check the video.
We'll check. But also going to a middle school with 4 people and a ham and everyone in their own car seems not safe.
Whoever came up with the idea to drop into a middle school middle of the day and toss a ham, that was a terrible idea.
It even sounds worse than it was. So that's the kind of things we do for you. If you don't follow us on the socials, please look for Wild on 7th and all your favorite phone places. But good, bad, and the ugly. Let's try to surprise some people.
All right, why don't you give me your good?
Well, God, I'm going to I got a couple. So good. Obviously, the power play has been really fun with Addison running it. But I'm going to give you two. I think everybody knows that stuff. So I'm going to give you a couple goods that I see. I love Middleton. I love the way he's playing. He's being more offensive. He's big. He's all over the ice. I think he's just been really, really solid in a D zone that's been challenging. And this is a wild card. I like Hartman finding his inner bitch. Can I say that or something?
Yeah.
Like
Sharpening his knife.
Sharpening his knife. And there's something about that now that he's not playing with those guys, and maybe he'll be back with them tonight. Whatever he wants, that's fine. But it's like he just rolled up the cigarettes in his t-shirt again. Like he's got that like mean. Hartman is like a greaser. He's not a soch. And I feel like he's had to run with the soches for a while. And like, I'm kind of okay with Hartman figuring out how to sharpen that knife again. Now he hasn't
Get back to being a greaser.
Yeah, it hasn't translated
That goes
yet, but I think it's going to. And I am rooting for that guy because the 38 special was some of the best money you could buy in the NHL last year. We should have nothing but good feelings for this guy, plus the best headshot in the NHL, 22-23. So handsome. Did you have a picture of his headshot on
No,
there?
but I got a story about this shirt I'm wearing.
Yes, that's related. So I like, my good is Hartman being a greaser again and Big Jake on the blue line and obviously the power play.
Yeah, I agree with you that Hartman's at his best when he's a greaser, and it goes back to training camp where everything was about production, offense. Can these guys match it? How are they going to do it? And I don't. It's too early to say that he got away from what made him good in that role, and that was being a greaser with some socials on the wings, right? And but I think we see it, and we talked about this on the podcast last year that he's kind of great because.
He for sure owns a comb.
Yeah.
Who do you know that has a comb?
Yeah.
He has a comb probably on his person.
And it probably flips open into a switchblade.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
he is.
And he'll cut you up with it, which we love about him is that he's like a little dirty.
Oh, yeah.
But
he will cut you.
He can show up in a black tie event and fit in just well.
Yep.
Good looking, smooth. But at the same time, he might just walk past you and cut you up, and you won't even know. And then
right in the
door.
Achilles.
Yeah, out the door, and that's it. You're ended.
I'm down with that, man. Get back to your bad self, Ryan Hartman. I don't know what that looks like yet. You can still score 1,000,000 points. Don't get me wrong, but I kind of like a little nose grease.
So some things are starting to show up in terms of your tastes in players. You like guys that are good, but that are also a little dirty, that play a little mean, you know?
God,
like
if I could
Hartman.
Kachuk and his mouth guard, and also Americans, don't get me wrong. But I just think, even Foligno, when he finds his Superman 2, and he didn't shave for 2 days, and he's yelling at the crowd, he's almost yelling because he scored, but also yelling at the crowd. He's very Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
I like some edge. Some sandpaper.
Let's take some wins when we can get them. And what we know about the Wild is that they're good. They're talented. And
they score a lot of goals.
They score a lot of goals. They don't quit. I think we even saw that.
Definitely don't quit.
They don't quit. We see that throughout these games, too, that there's still these components where, okay, they're down, LA, every reason to fold up and say it's not our night. They don't. They fight back. And they end up losing that game 7-6.
And if they win that LA game, everything changes, and they damn near did. That was the Winnipeg game last year.
Yeah.
It's the same game. It's exhausting. I had a buddy at the game. I'm like, what's it like? He's like, fans are tired. Like, it's been like roller coaster. But, if they could have just gutted that out, that I think the energy is real different around here.
Yeah, and the reason I'm not panicking is because you can still see those elements to their game. Right, that the scoring's there, the compete is there, and I think that the compete has gotten better throughout these 3 games. It wasn't there; they came out 100% like rip roaring. It's been a process, but yes. So and then the power play, right? So for me, it's encouraging that the Wild can look at a component of their game and say we want to improve on it, and then they do. Right? So the power play is clicking at 42.9%. That's the second best in the NHL right now, behind only Colorado. The other great part about it is somehow they're playing with the puck and drawing a lot of penalties. They've got 4.67 times on the power play per game played. I think that's 4th in the NHL. So they're drawing power plays, and the power play is cashing in. That's a fantastic thing for them. So it's good to be able to recognize and see that when they focus on something, it improves. It leads me to believe that they're going to be able to clean up the defensive zone too. And as soon as they do that, hopefully the goalies start to make saves. It gets a little easier for them. They can get through a game without being completely stressed out, right, and having to make every save or have a perfect game. I think that's starting to happen too, where these goaltenders feel like I have to be perfect, which that's not what you're asking them to do.
No.
But so bad. I'll go the bad still, and it's kind of a counter argument to the point I just made is the penalty kill. And it has not been good.
What are we doing differently? So if we went to almost this umbrella, Addison, power play, what are we doing on the kill this year compared to what we did last year?
You can call it a couple of things. So the two forwards in the zone are egg beaters, or, if you picture that old kitchen utensil or kitchen device where you plug it in, it's the mixer, you've got the blades going opposite directions. That's what they want the forwards to do. So push the puck from the middle so all the dough or whatever it is comes through the middle, then out the side. So you just keep this rotation and pressure going on the outside. And the hope is that the puck just sits around the outside of the zone the whole time. It's harder to get into the middle. And that the pressure eventually leads to poor passes, turnovers, and clears down the ice.
So who are the guys trying to do that primarily on the kill?
It's the two forwards.
And they're high or low?
Well, they're high, but they're going to be around the top of the circle. But you have to take angles to be able to pressure up and out, right?
So who are the guys that are in that spot typically?
Well, it's going to be Eriksson, Ek, and Foligno. Okay. So it's going to be any forward group that goes out there and kills.
And then what about the D?
The D are still doing their stuff, but they've got to cover. The problem and the hard part, and this isn't unique to just this style of kill. So basically what they're asking the forwards to be more active and pressure more. And instead of sitting back and protecting
notice
the house,
that.
which
They're on the wall.
Yes, they're pushing.
They even go down below the dots sometimes.
They're pushing.
Duhaim's down below the dots.
And you want to pressure, and you're willing to live with some open lanes and forcing the other team to make and execute passes. Some teams are going to be better at it than others. Colorado's going to be great. New York is going to be great. LA's got Kopitar. So I will say they're some
tough
pretty
start, yeah,
top end power plays. But what I see missing right now, and again, this isn't unique to just this style of penalty kill, is when you run an aggressive one like that, where you have a lot of pieces in motion, you have to have all four guys making the same read at the same time. And if one guy misses that read, that leaves an open lane. And the power plays are finding that open lane right now. So it's getting through the seam to the far side. Goaltenders having to make a miraculous save.
Would you do anything different on the kill, or do you just believe, hey, we're running into a buzzsaw group of death? These first teams are a handful on the power play. By the way, Vancouver probably is too, with Besser and Pettersson and Miller and who knows, but Quinn Hughes. But what do you think? Is it just a matter of time? Stay on the egg beater, high pressure, or would you adjust?
Well, I do think that a lot of it comes onto the players. They're professionals. They're in the spot for a reason. They should be able to adjust and make changes and fix it in short order. Some of it is going to take some reps on the ice to see where they have to be. Do you have to be in slightly different and probably more, I don't know if stressful is the right word, but uncomfortable situations where they're going to have to be between guys to cover lanes, and you might have to take a quick step one way or the other to break up a play, to make that read. But if all four guys can make the same reads at the same times and they can do that consistently, the penalty kill will work. It will work. The other part is that they need a save every once in a while, and that's always a fundamental piece of a penalty kill. Is your best killer needs to be your goaltender. But for me, so that's been a struggle, is the time it's taken for these guys to figure out and kind of shut down the opposition's power play and really all be on the same page, because that's probably, for me, the number one requirement on a kill like this to have success.
My bad, I guess. We talked about it earlier, but the giant minuses on Kirill and Zuki are interesting because they're also scoring, right? So it's like if you're a -8 and a -7 and you're putting the type of production you are out there as it is, you're basically on the ice anytime the other team scores. And so I don't want them to change how they're playing, but I also don't want it to be a pattern where it's like, hey, we can eat. When their big line is out there, we can eat. We can score on these guys. And I don't know when it's happening. Maybe you can tell me if it's we make a big push. Sometimes we score. If we don't, we come back. Maybe they're staying out there a little bit too long. Or do you think plus minus, it's early in the season, it'll even out, screw it, it doesn't really mean anything? What's your take on the big guns being so minus heavy?
Well, and that's my ugly too. So it's goals against 5-on-5. The Wild are 24th. They've got the 4th most goals against per game played 5-on-5. I think Kirill, we talked about this, has been out there for 8 5-on-5 goals against. I mean, that's almost 3 a game. You cannot have that, you know. So these guys, I think they're going to be able to fix it, and I do believe some of this goes back to missing Jordan Greenway. So
when is he back?
He may be, and this is a luxury the Wild had last year, is they were good, so they didn't have to rush guys back.
Yep.
He was out practicing.
We're still good, Ryan.
We'll see. Yeah,
we're still good.
There you go. So if he comes back, and if we look at,
would he come back? Vancouver is
I think he could come back Vancouver. It depends.
People would be happy about that.
Yeah, and it comes to how the coaches are deploying players and deploying lines in strategy, and at home they're in control of some of this stuff. But one of the things that the Wild have struggled with is they score a goal, and then shortly after,
it's the worst.
Another one, the team comes back and scores. It's
There's
like
nothing
instantly.
worse.
Yeah. So it's about hunkering down and knowing, okay, this is a spot where, we've got a cut, we're bleeding, and somehow I can't get this thing to scab up. It just keeps leaking. What do? It'd be nice to throw the grief line out there.
Absolutely.
Last year, grief line, I think 55 games they played together. They gave up 5 total 5-on-5 goals. Eriksson Ek alone without Greenway so far has given up 4. Like, it's just uncharacteristic. But these guys, when they get together, that's where Avison can say, all right, we scored, boom, grief goal, right? I don't care what you do. I'm not even putting pressure on you to go score another one. Just hold that puck in the offensive zone. You guys average 6'3", 220 pounds. Hold it, right? Let's get momentum back. Next line up. And if you have that luxury, that on your bench, that's great. You're missing one of those guys. All of a sudden, you don't have it. What happens? The puck's in the back of your net. So getting him back will allow Dean and the coaching staff to start to fix some of these problems like that too. But there's no question that the Wild need to clean things up 5-on-5 and not give up so many. There's only 3 teams that have given up more, and they've played more games. So, for example, San Jose, they've got 5 games played, 15 even strength goals against. The Wild have 13. Anaheim's played 4 games with 15, and Columbus has played 4 games with 14. So the 5-on-5 goals need to be cleaned up, and the grief line, if they can be reunited, will undoubtedly help that situation.
My ugly is a gentleman named Aaron Levinsky. He's a staff photographer for the Star Tribune. He took a photo of Foligno getting punched in the face by Reeves, and he decided to put that everywhere. That's not helpful, Aaron Levinsky. I think I would have deleted that photo just like I'm swallowing some chew spit. Like, no one needed to see that. The guy stood up to the biggest guy in the league in a game where I don't even know why Reeves fought him, to be honest. And, man, front page of the paper, you just got our guy, our tough guy getting punched. I know so he's a photographer. That's his job, but that photo just sucked. I wish I never saw it. I wish I could delete it from the hard drive.
So what's his name?
His name is Aaron Levinsky. Maybe we'll have him on the pod.
Yeah.
And say, hey, when you took that picture, you could have just kept it privately for yourself, or wait till we're like 7-3 and share it. Put it in an award show, Upper Midwest award show. He could have won. And then he just throws it on the front page of the Star Tribune. Chicklets has it out there. Dude, you're killing me, Levinsky.
You know what we need to do?
Killing me.
We need to wash that image out of our brains. And
we should light it on fire. I thought about bringing it printed out and lighting it on fire, but that might take a minute.
I put that on a tee for you. We need to wash.
Oh, sorry. God. Okay. Well, if we were to wash it, because it's such a dirty photo and such a done dirty by Levinsky, We would need some clean-ass water.
We would need some clean water.
Probably clean enough to not call it clean-ass water.
Well, that's exactly right. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but the weather is changing and so are the seasons. The air is starting to dry up a little bit. I'm waking up with like a sore, tight little throat. My skin feels tight on my face. And then I start thinking, is my face swollen or is the air dry? Whatever, anyways. But you know what combats all that?
I would say an Aquarius home system.
Yeah. A water system.
AQS.
Yeah. I've got a nice water softener, filtration system. I can take a shower, rinse all that off. The soap lathers nicely.
You can clean your Emmy?
The skin, yeah, you can clean the Emmy. There would be no spots on it.
I think you're
no
right.
mineral spots because they've all been filtered out. Aquarius Home Services, I use them. They've earned the right to be recommended. Check them out, aquariushomeservices.com.
Good job. I think can we talk about flour a little bit? So I want to call attention to a couple things for the fans. So the one thing is this goalie is going to be super hard for a completely spazzy fan base. Okay, so we need to embrace this. Okay, like this guy flies around the net, he slides around. He makes great saves that are unexpected. But he is not a sit in the crease. He's a terrier. He's not a Labrador.
Right.
And I think the Wild fans, I don't even know if that's the right, whatever the big
Bernese
dog is.
Mountain Dog?
Yeah, exactly. The Wild fans want their goalie to be a dog sitting by the fire and his tail is on fire and he doesn't know it, right? Because he's just sitting there. And Fleury is like a raccoon. He's flying around. A lot of animal reference.
I'm just trying to track.
But I'm just telling you. So I may say two things about this. One is you got to prepare yourself for that. It's going to be, if you want to be calm all the time, you're not going to be. That's not the way the guy plays. That's not how he won the Vezina. That's not how he won 3 cups. He's aggressive. The other thing is if you get a breakaway or you need a save that you didn't think in a million years you could get, he's the guy that does it. I remember when Dubnyk was here, he seemed like he was very much a system goalie. We had really solid D, but then when we would get a breakaway or in the playoffs or a big moment, he wasn't there. He would shrink a little bit. Now the bet on Fleury is that he's going to be there when you need him in a big unexpected moment. The other thing I think people need to pay attention to is similar to Moose. This guy wants nothing more than to be successful here. He's breaking his sticks against the wall. I mean, he's got kids going into school in Minnesota probably for the first time. And even though he's been his whole Wikipedia, he's a good goalie. What have you done for me lately? He's basically living in it's not even been a week, last 6 days, okay? And I just see a fiery competitor. I see a guy that's just losing his mind. He would probably reply to all those mean tweets and be like, say worse stuff. So I don't know. I think there's something to that's the culture of a winner. He knows what it takes. He knows he hasn't been at his best, and he's got about 3 bent goalie sticks. And to me, I always watch the last 2 or 3 minutes of a hockey game, even if it's lopsided, because I want to see the character of the team. I want to see how they handle themselves. Who turns into a prick because I like those guys. But I see Fleury, this dude, he knows. There's nothing you can tell him that he doesn't already know, and he would like nothing more than to bloom again here in Minnesota.
Does part of you feel like he's going to have a statement game really soon?
I think
he's one of those guys that it's a bounce back, and instead of being like he's washed up, it's like this game's coming.
I would have played him in Game 3. I understand why they didn't. I just think I'd just roll him.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I would say to him. He would look at me. He's got another broken stick. I'd just be like, go grab another one because you're still in the cage, buddy. This is your net. I mean, let him figure it out. It's not like he's a rookie.
Well, it's also amazing how fast things change. If you remember last year, we're throwing bouquets of flowers on the ice, and then 2 games into this one,
now we're throwing Chinese stars.
Right, exactly.
Jeez.
But
luckily, he's got a bunch of gear.
But you do make a really good point, and it is. I think we could probably go back to the good, the bad, and the ugly. There are going to be parts of his game that are really good. There's going to be parts that are bad. There's going to be parts that are ugly. But that's Marc-Andre Fleury to a T, right?
There's parts that are different for sure.
Yeah.
He's going to me, there's a lot more street hockey in Fleury's game. He is not a robotic goaltender.
Right.
That stays in the crease. And so whatever you need to do, I probably can't say this, but like whatever you need to do to calm yourself watching a Wild game, whatever that might be, you might need to start doing that because he's going to be in the net, and just help yourself relax and watch.
Yeah. And, but I do think that he's different. He's active, he's aggressive, and he just hasn't found it yet. And I think that a lot of that goes back to the preseason too. It was an easy schedule for him. He played Chicago and Milwaukee, had 12 shots. His first game at home, 12 shots. He saw 24 shots through 2 games over the course of 2 weeks, right? And I get it, they have practice, but if you talk to any goaltender, they say practice just doesn't do them service like a game does. Like they have to be able to read plays, situations, move, traffic. And some of that stuff can be simulated in practice, but it's nowhere near the same or at the same pace. So these guys need games to be good. And I think he's seen enough now, and he understands. It's a matter of how fast can he bounce back and find it now. I think spring chicken Marc-Andre Fleury, a young one, would be like, boom, he'd be able to find it a little quicker, right? And who knows? I really don't have the answer to that. That's one of the things that I think we're all watching, looking for, and we don't know Marc-Andre Fleury like some other organizations do, like some fans do. And will he bounce back? I wholeheartedly believe, yes, he will, and it's going to be great. When that's going to happen, I don't know. And that's not me being a homer. That's me referencing some things that have happened throughout my career. Marty Brodeur, maybe the best that ever played the position, was the same. I played with him for a handful of years in New Jersey. He'd go on streaks where everything on the ice would go in. Everything on the ice. And then all of a sudden, boom, he'd figure it out again.
Then he was like, hey, I'm Martin Brodeur.
And exactly. And then you know what would happen? You'd win 8 games in a row, and he'd give up 1 or less every night. The guy would pitch a shutout, and you're like, how does he do this, right? And he just had he was different, and it looked different. He behaved different, and some things mattered and some things didn't. I think Marc-Andre Fleury is cut from a very similar cloth. Yeah. He's not going to be perfect all the time.
I'm Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yes, that's coming.
That's a sentence.
That's coming.
And it will be said. And I just got a couple things to finish. We got to give some props to Boldy. I think he's been one of our best early on. I don't know if you agree, disagree. I just think he's playing good hockey. He's a rare plus, I believe, or certainly even. And he's just fun to watch. It's fun to see him on the power play with those other guys. I think he's the kind of player you can sort of change up his world a lot, and he can handle it. He doesn't always need to be with the same 2 players. I think you get a lot out of Matt Boldy on a regular basis. What have you seen from him early on?
Yeah, so a couple things here. We talked about this during the preseason where we're priming the power play on how, there's just one puck, and the chemistry between Kevin Fiala, Kaprizov, the way people shoot and everything in the power play last year didn't work. Matt Boldy, now on that power play, I think you have to give him a lot of credit for the success of that power play and his ability to move the puck, make plays, read, execute. He's the one difference for me on that top power play, and then the results are all of a sudden there, right? So Boldy, yeah, he's been great. The other thing that I think is extremely encouraging is that times have been tough. And what you've seen from Matt Boldy is not a young player that goes away and waits for a leader to put some team on their back and pull themselves out of it. He appears to be the guy that wants to pull them out of it. So his game continues to get better. First period, second period, third period, down, down, down. Is he getting better? Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
And it's noticeable, right? So you have a guy with supreme talent, and you couple that with a guy that has the mentality like that of a leadership role, of a veteran guy, understanding situation, what I have to do, let's get it done, I'm not waiting around. It's extremely encouraging, and I'm impressed with the way that he has played.
So you give Boldy more credit for the change in the power play than Addison, because Addison's a offensive defenseman. We have lots of those. And we just traded out a guy. I know when I watch it, it looks like an umbrella. It's sort of it's kind of terrifying because it feels like it's easy to get the puck out on the boards, but people kind of aren't. And once you have it, there's a nice shape to it. We can do a lot with those guys once we have the puck.
Yeah.
But you think Addison's a big change too, or do you really think it's Boldy that's stirring it?
I think I think Addison brings an element that wasn't there, and for me, that element is shooting. He seems to not be reluctant to shoot, and he has a good shot. So that's a nice piece to have up on top there. I think he's done a nice job, but it's getting the puck to these other guys too. I think, but I would give more credit to Boldy right now, just because it seems when it runs through him, like the power play's heart rate all of a sudden goes from 160 beats per minute to 120. Like as soon as it gets on his tape, everything calms down.
Yeah, he's chill.
And then, but and not, I don't know that this is the right way to say it, but when Addison has the puck, I don't think the power play's heart rate goes 160 to 120. I think it stays 160, maybe 170. You don't quite know what you're going to get. It turns out to be pretty good. Like you're working hard
so
bringing
far,
pucks in net. But right now for me, Boldy's been the difference.
I wanted to finish, unless you have other stuff, just kind of on this theme of having a little fun. Just a story that I think's interesting. If you've seen the Moose commercial that's running for the Wild, people have asked. We worked on that commercial, and how did you get them into the water with this stuff? And I think just to understand Marcus Foligno's personality, we're in Lake Minnetonka. There's a swampy area, so before Moose goes into the water, I threw a dead bird out with a stick, a dead fish. He shows up. It's a nice summer day, looking like Marcus Foligno, and we're like, hey, we're going to go in the swamp in your gear and film this thing. As we're walking out into the water, he says to me, because I swear to God, one of my biggest phobias in life is seaweed. He goes, I'm like, are you screwing with me? He goes, no, I think that seaweed is going to pull me down under the water. I've always felt that way. When I see seaweed, it's going to pull me underwater. I'm like, well, this is really going to suck for you then, because we're walking into this lily pad area and I'm putting seaweed all over his helmet and his stick. And this is the best. Foligno, kind of getting to your point about having fun and hearing some attaboys from practice. He's over there going up and down and he goes, hey, seaweed doesn't pull you down. It makes you float. And he just starts laughing and he's smiling. And I think maybe that's what the fan base needs to do, is just take your fears and know that, hey, maybe the seaweed's not going to pull you down. It's going to make you float. And so I don't know, just something a little lighthearted and everybody can loosen their sphincters up a little bit.
Hey, that's why we're here. We're here to break the mold, and it's not all rosy throughout the first 82 games.
We might lose tomorrow.
Yeah.
We might.
And we should prime that for just 10 seconds here. It's going to be a tough one. Bruce Boudreau's coming in, sitting on 599 wins, and Vancouver has struggled in the same regard, where
giving up big leads.
Yeah, and they can score, but they're having a hard time keeping it out of their net.
Demko's playing tomorrow, I believe. He didn't play last game.
Bruce 599. It'll be intriguing, because I think you can go in both locker rooms and put on the board 599. And it is possible that motivates both clubs. You know what I mean? Like, let's get our coach 600. Let's keep him from 600.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Break up the no-hitter. Yeah, we got Vancouver, and then we're on the road: Boston, Montreal, Ottawa, Detroit, Chicago. I was funny. I was writing 6-3. This is my old note: 6-3, 7-2 through the first 9. We're 0-3 now. We'll see where it goes, but I'm still expecting these guys to get healthy. I think the best way, I agree with you, is maybe not so tight on the stick.
Yeah, if you have to, watch the games with a brown paper bag. Breathe into it. Remember the events of December 11th last year. Yeah. Remember the outcomes after that. It still is going to take some work and some effort, and they're going to have to dig themselves out of it, but you got to keep the faith, and we're breaking the mold here, one podcast at a time, Kinger. We're here
till it's here.